So do I want to always be a lawyer? I don't know if I'll be a practicing lawyer, but I love being able to work with people and field calls. I mean, I'm a personal injury lawyer now, but I'm helping people do all sorts of things in the same practice. It's not personal injury work, but I do some general counsel work for clients because I like to, when people have a problem, I either want to be able to help them myself or make sure I can put them in the right hands. So at a minimum, they can say, that guy Lee, he didn't help me, but he gave me the guy that did. That was helpful.
That's always helpful.
Yeah. This is a people business.
Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando Leduc, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, Lee Rudin in the house.
Thanks for having me, Armando. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you being here. I don't play the guitar. I wish I did, but I found that in the quarter when I was shooting my movie Bourbon Whiz. It's The Wizard of Oz meets Bourbon Street.
Love that.
Ridiculous.
Love that.
And so I had everybody that was in the cast sign it.
I was going to say to you, it's got signatures on it. So if you found it in the quarter from somebody hawking it, it could be worth something.
Could be. I don't think it is.
Right,
I mean, it's worth something to me.
Right.
Because it's, it has all my friends' signatures on it and stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Love it.
So Lee Rudin, personal injury attorney. But what we're specifically talking about today is depression, anxiety, why we stay stuck, right? And from the perspective of a personal injury attorney who sees, a lot of people sort of probably on the worst day of their lives many times, you're seeing this real time on a daily basis, and wanted to bring you in and hear some of the techniques and tactics that you're saying or that you're giving to your clients on how to overcome this depression and get out of anxiety and start moving forward.
Look, the first thing when I talk to a client, the first thing I tell them, I was like, nobody calls a lawyer because they want to.
Right.
Very, very rare, right? Maybe you have a piece of intellectual property, right? You want to copyright something. Oh, cool. You're excited about it. You call a lawyer. Maybe you're thinking about your last days and you want to set your family up, so you write a will. You're proactive about calling a lawyer. Most people are reactive, and in my world, they're reactive because their hair's on fire, right? Hurricane Ida just hit. They've got all these problems. The insurance company is jerking them around. They come to me. They've tried everything. They come to me. They're on their way to work. They just got rear-ended. Now they don't know what they're going to do. That's a new car, or it's their only car, right? They're hurting. They've never done this before. They got to do what? Call the insurance company, call theirs, call the others. What do they do? What do? We try to unburden them. Now, that's day one. Let's talk about day 5, day 10, day 300. It's still going on. Now they're potentially wallowing in this challenging position, and our job is to try to help them through that in a variety of ways without them succumbing to deep depression and the after effects of anxiety and things like that.
So how does somebody that doesn't see the light at the end of the tunnel even begin to start moving in you're in the dark, right? So you don't even know what direction to be heading into.
Right. So I was talking to someone the other day and I said, one of the things that we try to do with our clients, I came up with a cute little acronym for the RUDE, right? But the first thing we need to do is figure out what's your problem, right? So I think the letter was R for research, right? So I need to talk to you. I need to understand, all right, what's really at issue? Now, when I explain to insurance companies, I say, guys, you need to understand the worst parts of my job. The worst parts of my job are explaining to the client on the front end how we're going to navigate their vehicle issue, right? If they got in a car accident, not having a car, if you don't have the money to just go get a rental or have something else available to you, can be the worst thing for someone that maybe works a 9 to 5 and needs their vehicle or transports their kids to and from school or camp. Not having a mode of transportation, especially where we live here, where there's not great public transportation,
right,
is a game changer. Right?
So you guys help people with that?
Well, the first thing we do is we try to get on the horn, right? Let's get the insurance company involved. Say, okay, when are you getting this person in a rental? You're clearly at fault. You're going to owe this. Don't give me the song and dance of, oh, we need to investigate. Like, your guy hit my client in the rear. There's no question here.
Right.
All right. Sometimes I tell the clients, we don't want to wait. Let's go to your insurance company. If you have coverage, let's go run it under your insurance company. They'll do what's called subrogation. That means they'll pay for your vehicle, and they'll go after the person, the insurance company that's at fault. Yes, people don't like to use their own insurance, but that's why you have it. Why do you have it for the worst day?
Right.
Use it, right? Because trust me, when you come calling, your insurance company ain't going to be there saying, you were such a good soldier for 30 years. Like, here's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, it ain't going to happen. No matter what the good neighbor and you're in good hands. Like, okay, fair enough. But the point of that is, I'll tell a client, all right, you can't get the insurance company for the other side to move fast enough. You can't get your insurance company. You don't have the coverage. Let's just go rent you a vehicle. We'll get it on the back end. I'm confident enough on the facts of the case that we're going to get you reimbursed for the vehicle. And I know that right now, that is a major issue for you. Let's unburden you. Let's get that resolved. We can resolve it. Let's do it. Let's not talk about it. Let's not wait. Let's act. So that's kind of step one, day one. When I know somebody's got that kind of problem, let's go try to solve it. And the other stuff's going to come later because that's just the nature of this industry.
So taking many actions to solve a big ass problem, is key.
How do you eat an elephant, Armando?
Yeah, one bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Have you had elephant?
Love that.
Wilson has. Wilson's eaten elephant before.
Big elephant fan?
Is it? I don't know.
That's assault, brother.
No, I don't do that. I just love messing with Wilson because he's not on camera, so he can't defend himself.
You know what's funny? If you
But you
didn't
can
say
jump in.
anything, they would probably think that he's talking to like the volleyball with the face from Castaway.
Yes.
You need to get one of those, and that way, like when you talk about Wilson, there's a
should.
volleyball.
Well said. Have you seen it?
Never seen it, but I've heard it.
You should watch the movie.
You got to watch it
You
now.
gotta watch it. So I like that idea of, mini actions to get out of like that big thing. Is inaction also a solution?
It can be, right? And I'll say that not on my end, right? Inaction is not a solution on my end. And I think that a lot of lawyers get into problems because they just figure, if I do nothing, this case is going to go its way and we'll get a resolution at the end. But you need to be proactive as the lawyer. But for the person that's been hurt, that's been aggrieved by somebody else, sometimes they just need to step back and get out of the weeds of this new happening. Let somebody else step in for them. So I say I did a spot for Instagram, social media the other day, and I happened to have a black eye from playing a pickup basketball game. And I said, I'm going to lean into this thing. I'm going to cut some videos about, taking punches and this and that, but I kind of mean it. Right? Our job is to step in front of the client, let the insurance company bitch and moan at us. Yeah. Let them make phone calls telling us, the client doesn't need to hear that. The client doesn't want to hear that. Our job is to take that weight off their shoulders and let us be the conduit. All right, what are your needs? Let's see how we can solve them. Because again, getting out of that is going to allow you to get back to the things that are important to you, that you were doing, minute one, hour one before the wreck or before the storm, right? And that might be what keeps you mentally, physically, emotionally healthy. You need to be, that's where we want to get you back to.
Right. Let me ask you this. I always wondered this about your field. Are there like the really bulldog attorneys that are known in the community as like, those dudes get the money every single time without fail, no exception?
There are definitely attorneys like that. I don't know that I can point to one specifically in this community, right? You've got attorneys that like to shout, I'm a bulldog.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, totally. Everybody
bark
does.
And bite. Yeah.
Everybody does.
Look,
right?
that's kind of my shtick too. But I do mean it, right? We're going to be tough because that's the way I think you need to get results. I'm always of the mind, you don't get anything you don't ask for. Right. You don't get anything you don't insist on. Sometimes it takes telling the insurance company, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Right? I don't need to take the knife and put it in your back. I'll put it right in the front. Right? This is exactly how I'm going to do it. And you're not in a good spot to be negotiating with me. Okay, we'll file the lawsuit. We'll move on. I think that, you need to, there are great lawyers. I'm not going to say that there's anybody in this community I'm like, oh, go call that guy. But there's lawyers known throughout the Gulf South nationally where they add value. The lawyer adds value. Do I think I'm one of them? Of course I do. But I don't want to pull a muscle patting myself on the back so hard. But I came from a defense background. I came from a defense background. And so, I had the conversation with buddies of mine. They asked me the other day at lunch, they said, what do you think of the clown video, the sheep video? Like, do you think it's destroying your reputation? I was like,
what clown video? What sheep video?
He doesn't follow me on social media. He asked me to come on here, and he's not liking my content.
I didn't know that. Did you see it? I'll follow it. I'll watch it. So I didn't know there was a sheep video.
Yeah, so the sheep video just came out this week. The clown video was when I had the black eye. I had to pivot. We were due to film on a Wednesday. That black eye happened Saturday of the first weekend of Jazz Fest.
Right.
And I'm like, I need the content. I'm not going to not do this. So I just rewrote all the scripts. One was me.
That's great.
One was me as a boxer. One was me laying in a handicapped parking spot, having just got knocked out.
That's awesome.
And the last one was in a clown video, with my kids' toys in the yard in a Halloween costume that I had from years ago. I was like, what can I do with this thing? And I was like, I got an idea. Then I did one recently where I'm dressed like a sheep and using all these sheep-like analogies to explain what happens to you.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, send it. Dude, always text me, man.
Right.
Always text me.
You got it. Look, the point of that is, and I don't know, I know where we were going, but I'm going to say
But you were talking about, you were with your other attorney friends and they were like, hey, man, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so, I'll tell you, I'll get to that. But my point and what I want to make here while I'm on this topic is we're in a tough business. Mm-hmm. We help people about issues that are really important to them, to us, and it's serious. But I don't take myself too seriously. Like, I know what people think about injury lawyers, right? I did a video about being an ambulance chaser. Some guy on the internet called me a bottom feeder. I'm like, dude, I'm in Louisiana. Everything we got that's great is a bottom feeder. We're bottom feeders. So, you got to lean into some of this stuff because you're going to get flack. And I got thick skin. But I want people to know that we're tough, but we also don't take ourselves too seriously.
That's great.
So your question about great lawyers. The conversation they asked me was like, do you think that you're going to get, these people are going to come hire you? I said, I don't know why people make the decisions they make. And they said, these guys over here that we go up against, they add value. Some of these other guys that are tough, the guys that they're talking about are out of Houston. They do a lot of marine work, so they get lawyers from around the area that aren't necessarily just Louisiana lawyers. But they said, the guys that talk tough or they obstruct or they're just braggadocious, that doesn't help us get to the end result, right? That may serve the lawyer, but it doesn't serve the client. And that's how I think about things. So we're tough, but we're pragmatic. I don't want to tell you, hey, screw them, let's go file a lawsuit. If all that's going to happen is you're going to get the same result that I can get you today, but you're going to get it 6 months from now.
And that's where experience comes in.
You have to be experienced. You have to have tact and be tactical, right? You got to know how to deal with people and at the same time have a strategy and say, okay, if this doesn't work, what's the next move? You can't be reactionary. You have to have a plan, and that comes with experience.
Talk to me about how, we started doing day in the life videos for people that have been hurt and catastrophic injuries.
We want to talk about that after this.
How does that play into like the deposition and making sure that they're like, how is a personal injury attorney using that video?
So day in the life videos are designed to put a juror, right? It's not going to be as persuasive for a judge who's just been there before. But a juror is probably somebody that's been impaneled maybe for the first time ever. And the only experience they have is what you see on Law and Order or one of the court shows or maybe a movie. That's what they think that the world in a legal situation should look like. So part of what you do is you want to put on that show. You want to meet their expectations.
Right.
Now you don't want to be a clown, but day in the life videos are important because it's really hard to conceptualize how a severe injury or even a minor injury can affect somebody if you haven't been there.
Right.
Right. So like what I have told my clients recently, and it's true, I hurt my back probably about 5 years ago now, and I recovered. But now I have a new appreciation for what it's like to have a herniated disc in your back. And when people say they have back pain, they can't get out of bed. Like, I've been there now. I didn't have surgery, but I did all the other things before surgery. And luckily I was able to rehab and get better. But because of that, I have a new appreciation for what are the procedures like? I can tell you, hey, I thought that injection I got was a nothing burger. I was in and out. I was awake. I was talking to the doctors. It took all of 30 seconds. And if they would have let me, I would have driven home. But they tell you can't, so I didn't. But, to be able to explain to somebody, hey, I would go do this because I think it's going to help you. And at worst, like, you shouldn't be as worried about it. You shouldn't be as anxious about the unknown, because I can explain to you exactly what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
So I think the day in the life videos, they're designed to take those jurors who have never been there. They don't know what it's like to walk a day in this person's shoes. Let's see what it's like now. Maybe they're going to do flashbacks to what it was like before, if there's any content there, because words only go so far, and an emotional plaintiff can be perceived as being coached. Hopefully the video, if done right.
Are you showing the video in trial?
If they'll let you.
Do they let you?
Sometimes. It depends. But of course, like, you want them out there so that the other side knows, hey, this is going to be, even if you don't get the video, this is what you're going to get in terms of testimony and visuals if we can present them. It just depends on where you are. State court can be more loose.
Does that bring up the value of the case?
It can. It depends, right? So I'm sorry to say that all the time.
Sure.
But,
such a lawyerly thing to say.
It is, but I think that when you lay all the cards on the table, you can understand better why it depends.
Right.
I call it the three legs of the stool. Like, any case is the three legs of the stool. You've got liability, who's at fault, damages, what do they owe, and then coverage. And coverage can be more important than anything, because you could get rear-ended on vets right out here and have the same exact injuries, same liability facts. But if you get hit by a company vehicle or an 18-wheeler as opposed to a Mazda Miata or a Honda Civic, and God forbid the guy doesn't have insurance or has the minimum, which in this state's $15,000, your injuries are the same. The trauma is the same. The liability facts are the same. But what you can recover, it's a world difference.
Right.
People need to understand that. And sometimes, you need to wrap your head around, what are you going to go after a defendant that has no money? Like, yeah, $15,000 is inadequate, but what are you going to do? You're going to try to bankrupt the guy and spend 5 years chasing after something you're never going to collect? So it's harsh realities that, let's get back to the anxiety, depression topic, right? Lawyers, they're also called counselors. Sometimes that's what it feels like.
Right.
You're receiving people's problems and you're trying to give them the most sage advice you can. Is it all going to be what they want to hear? Absolutely not. I just probably got fired by a client yesterday because I told her, I don't think your case has legs. Not in the way you do. I was like, I got this result for you today. I don't think there's a tomorrow for you because of the way the math doesn't math.
Right.
On your best day, your case is worth X. You go file a lawsuit, it's going to cost you $1,000. They're going to want to question you. That's another $1,000. You're going to have to question their client because it's a 50-50 liability case. That's $3,000. Now just figure out, when you take out costs and fees, if you don't hit a home run, we're exactly where we are today.
Yeah.
I take the money and run. I said, here, take your entire file, take a look at it, bring it to somebody else. If I'm crazy, I'll help your lawyer however they want. I'll give them all the information I have. Of course, I owe that to you anyway, but I want the best result for you. We've worked together for years.
Right.
I want your success and my success are aligned. I just need to tell you when I think you're throwing good money after bad or good time after bad. That's my obligation to you too.
You think you're always going to be an attorney?
I can't imagine I'm not. The one thing I love about it, and I think when people have asked me, like, why'd you become a lawyer? When I really distill it down, I like being able to help people, and I like having information that they can't otherwise get themselves, right? And then that comes with, of course, being a lawyer. It comes with some of our training too. So there's the experience component. But the one thing law school does teach you, right? It doesn't teach you a lot about being a lawyer, but it teaches you how to think analytically, how to read carefully. I won a case years ago. I was on the defense side. I won a case. It was a commercial dispute, so it was business on business, because the contract had the word the or the and not a. And I said, Judge, like, it says the, which means one thing. A could mean a multitude of things. I said, they wrote that contract. That's what that means. It has to refer to this thing. Judge is like, I agree. I went, we grabbed Webster's and like all the grammatical and how to write books.
Wow.
You weren't citing legal cases. You're talking about like what do words mean? So you have to be very careful about the things you do in order to make those kinds of arguments. You can't be painting with broad brushes all the time. You got to get down in the weeds and the minutia sometimes. So do I want to always be a lawyer? I don't know if I'll be a practicing lawyer, but I love being able to work with people and field calls. I mean, I'm a personal injury lawyer now, but I'm helping people do all sorts of things in the same practice. It's not personal injury work, but I do some general counsel work for clients because I like to, when people have a problem, I either want to be able to help them myself or make sure I can put them in the right hands. So at a minimum, they can say, that guy Lee, he didn't help me, but he gave me the guy that did. That was helpful.
That's always helpful.
Yeah. This is a people business.
Yeah, man. So anxiety, depression, when you're in it, have you ever suffered from anxiety?
I have not,
depression?
fortunately.
Yeah.
No, I've not.
It's pretty interesting, man, because it's this feeling. I feel like the things that I've been able to overcome in terms of depression is like really feeding my mind motivational books, reading, listening to the greats, Success Leaves Clues, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes people may get comfortable with that feeling, of depression and like revel in it.
I'm a massive Bruce Springsteen fan. And
Are you?
I am. Yeah.
There's so many attorneys that love Bruce
Well,
Springsteen.
I'm also from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like it kind of just fits.
Yeah.
But he's experienced that his whole life. And so I've read his book and I listened to him talk and he talks about exactly what you're saying. If you either get stuck in it or you get somebody that can watch your signs and get you out of it.
Right.
But his career, the gaps in certain writing or the type of writing was all driven by his mental health. And then you think back, how many great artists, music, movies, TV, you read about them or you hear stories and you're like, oh, okay, that guy he had some mental health issues. And this was his relief.
Yeah.
His release. Right? It was like through the writing or through the art.
I think about Game of Thrones. And did you see it? Yeah.
I haven't watched any of the spinoffs yet.
No, I haven't seen the spinoffs either yet.
Too busy. I've not been watching TV.
Yeah. But it was, wasn't that during COVID? Game of Thrones?
Some of it.
Some of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was before that too.
Yeah.
But I think the ending was all during COVID.
Yeah.
It's like pretty captive audience. Not bad, right?
Yeah.
HBO nailed that one.
Yeah, it was great. But like, I think about the writer, and I'm like, what were you thinking, man? And where's this coming from?
My brother went on a trip to Croatia. It was like part of the trip. And they went to all the Game of Thrones sites.
Yeah.
Because some of the scenes, where she's
Croatia's
like walking.
amazing.
Yeah. And when she's walking down the steps and they're.
Oh, yeah. Shame,
right?
shame.
He's like, dude, it's gorgeous. It's awesome. But amazing, like to be in that world where you're like scoping out scenes and you're like, all right, what's the grandest, most, looks like a castle place that still exists. And it's very cool.
Have you been to Rome?
No. I've been elsewhere in Italy, but not Rome.
Rome is just, it's like that. It's like
Yeah.
majestic. It's like, wait, what? Did y'all build this for a movie? Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just like,
I studied history. That was my undergrad major. I knew I was going to go to law school. Right? So kind of your question about being a lawyer, et cetera. I knew I was going to go to law school. So I went to Tulane and I said, I'm going to be a history major because I like it. And I know it's just a means to the next step. And I was fascinated by the old stuff and how we got, some of the strategy of war and things like that. And then, with these conversations we're having, right? Have you been to Europe, this and that? And we live in one of the oldest cities, at least in our country.
Sure.
You walk around everywhere and you're like, oh, I never look up when I'm in the CBD. But if I did, you could see some really cool old buildings.
Yeah.
Of course, in the French Quarter. So we're lucky to be in the place that we are. people come visit us to have fun, and this is where we live.
yeah.
It doesn't get better than that.
It is it was a great spot. So let me ask you this. I know you do personal injury. What are the other offers that you guys have or services?
So I'd say personal injury is 85% of the practice. At least that's where we want to go.
Yep.
I also represent several small businesses around town where I provide some employment advice, top level employment advice.
Cool.
We review contracts and leases. I represent clients when they have issues with contractors or other businesses. Again, it all kind of circles around helping people. Very few of those cases are on the defense side, and really they're only for longtime clients and their legacy cases, because it's really where I want to get out of. You know, I really want to be on the plaintiff side, helping people against others that have hurt them in whatever capacity.
Right.
What I tell people though is, you know, come to me with your problem. Maybe it's a medical malpractice case. I've got one of those now, but it's not my specialty. I am a good lawyer. I am a good litigator. I love going to trial. But if it's a very narrow area of the law, I'm going to find a specialist that'll work with me, and we'll tag team it. And you know, what people don't understand is they're like, well, now I have to pay for 2 lawyers. It's like, no, you don't. We just share in the fee.
Right.
So you're getting 2 for the price of 1, which I don't know anybody that turns that down. They just don't.
It's great. Joint ventures is what it's about. You doing hurricane property and casualty too?
I am. Those are somewhat winding down now. I've got 2 mediations next week. You know, the way that they've handled this, because of the volume of cases, is they've got you on a very strict schedule of to try to get these resolved without going into the full-blown, you know, going to court thing, where then you start sending out requests for documents and taking people's testimony under oath. Like, they're trying to push that off, because that gets super expensive and it's very stressful for the aggrieved homeowner. So you're in these streamlined settlement schedules. So I've got a couple coming up next week. We've wrapped up a whole bunch. You know, the relief that people bring to me. Now, I'm not telling you they get the A+ 100% result. That's not a settlement. You get that at trial, maybe, but a settlement, everybody gives a little.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the day of they walk out and they're a little disappointed, but that when they go to sleep, and I get that text the next morning, like, Lee, you don't understand how well I slept last night. Might not have been the best result, but it's now behind them. They now know, like, a check is coming.
Yeah.
They're going to get to rebuild their house. They don't have to think about this anymore. They got something new to think about, but that's the new thing is progress.
Yeah.
So I helped the parents, adult parents, and then her mom, the wife's mom. And the mom just said the nicest things to me. And I was like, this is why you do this.
Yeah.
You don't get that sort of, you get a attaboy when you help an insurance company resolve a case.
Right.
This is meaningful, and like, that's awesome.
How do people find you?
How do they find me? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We are Rude in Law, but we're somewhat leaning into that Get Rude moniker, and I feel like it's easier to remember. So right now my website is www.ruden.law. But I also own getrude.com. So actually right now, if you type in getrude.com,
It'll forward to.
I think we flipped it yesterday.
Oh, did
so
you?
Rude in Law is now going to forward to getrude.com. I just think it's stickier. And
I think so.
People, you know, Ruden. So it's Get Rude. The volume of letters I get from insurance companies where they call me Lee Rubin. And I'm like, it's Get Rude, not Get Rube. Like, how do you mess this up? I thought I was spoon feeding it all to you. Yeah, so I get Ruden, Ruden. They do rudenlaw.com, which if I could have bought it, I would have. But there's a guy in New York that has the same last name. He owns it. So, but I think the Get Rude idea, it embodies who we are, not to our clients, but to the other side. Like, we're just not going to take your yes sirs, you know, this is how it's got to be. Like, I know it's not. So we're going to push back. You know you're going to get somebody who's going to fight for you. We're going to be tough, but we're going to be tough with you too. Like, if I tell you that you need to give me documents, that's how I move your case forward, and you don't, we're going to stay on you, and we're going to tell you, if you don't give me these documents, this case is going to go sideways. It's your case. It's not mine.
Right.
I am a mercenary. I'm trying to get you the best result possible, and it means something to me. But if you don't let me do my job, I can't.
Yeah.
And that's why you hired me. You hired me because you think I am going to be skilled enough to get you from A to Z. Don't start putting impediments that you're creating that prevent us from doing our job.
Hallelujah.
Yep.
Lee Ruden, everybody. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I
man.
love it.
And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment. For all of your social media marketing needs, podcasting, we got you. Keep listening, keep watching, and we'll see y'all next time.